Howdy mates, good morning. How are we all doing today? It is Wednesday, September 14th, 2022. I've actually made my return to the Myakka River State Park, based out of Sarasota, Florida. It's actually been a hot minute since my last visit. The last time I was here, it was clear back in April. So, that being said, it's been a while. But here you can just clearly see the demonstration of how much it can flood here. You figure since we've had all of this rain occurring, within the past couple of weeks, percolation can't keep up. Percolation's just another word for saying, water being able to pass through the soil easily. But the thing is, there's a particular reason as to why it is so flooded the way it is. You see, Florida in general is mostly flat. There's hardly any change in the elevation whatsoever. I would say at a maximum, maybe 1 to 2 feet, throughout the state. So that makes it a bit easier for flooding to occur. But the second reasoning really has to do with the water table that is in Florida. So for those of you not as familiar with the water table, it is a term that comes from Watershed Hydrology, which simply involves studying the behavior of water and the general aspects of watersheds. So I should define really what a watershed is before I go in depth about the water table. You see, the watershed is basically, an analogy I like to use about watersheds is they're like underground lakes, essentially. They're basically like the storage of water underground. And these watersheds are what help feed a lot of our local lakes and even rivers too. So in these watersheds is typically where water is recycled naturally. And once it's discharged, that's when you'll oftentimes see it in rivers and whatnot. But during when raining occurs, there is a term called recharge, which basically helps replenish our watershed. But the thing is, watersheds pretty much range everywhere. So essentially anywhere that you are, whether it be, at the Myakka River State Park or maybe somewhere in California, you are essentially above a watershed. So now it ties into the term water table. So the term water table is basically the upper boundary of a watershed. So usually, depending on region, so like for instance, if you go up to, say, Michigan, or no, not Michigan. Say you go to Kentucky or Ohio. Typically the water table is, it's quite a few feet underground. Even sometimes it could be as much as 100 feet, depending on, where you are. But unlike Florida, given how flat it is, and considering that, Florida is not that much above sea level, the water table might only be as much as 5 inches underground, or maybe just a foot, and that's it. So basically, when a lot of rain occurs, the ground becomes what you call oversaturated. So once that water table has reached its threshold, that water can't permeate or percolate through the soil anymore. So that's why usually, once it finally gets into the dry season, which, typically once dry season comes in, which will be probably in another month or two, we're going to have less and less rain occurring. And that's when water will finally have a chance to evaporate and replenish the watershed. And you won't see as much flooding that's happening right now. But that's basically how it works. So since we've already reached that water table threshold, that water table or the watershed can't take in any more water. It's basically an analogy I like to use when it comes to this is, say you have a full cup, right? And you just keep pouring more and more water. The thing is, eventually when you fill up to the threshold of that cup, eventually it's just going to, leak out more water or pour out more water. So essentially, this is the same thing that's happening. There's a lot of overflowing. But since this is a state park, the watershed here is actually really good. And it's at this state park basically where the Myakka River begins. And that spans about 72 miles, basically from, Myakka City all the way down by Northport, where it meets up with the Charlotte Harbor, as I like to say it. So, all right, you guys, hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for taking some time to learn about the hydrology of, this part of Florida. All right, take care, you guys. Enjoy your Wednesday, and journey on a journey is outwards. Take care, folks. See ya.